This year Florida State did a bad job in the transfer portal, and they've got I thought they did a good job evaluating earlier on. You had guys like a guy like a Jared Verse that you saw and you read very well and what he could really do for your defense, and you thought you could have that with Marvin Jones Jr. But if you just go back to some tape and stuff, there's a reason why Kirby Smart kind of just let him go there. You know, cut him off, cut him loose, and now Florida State hasn't been able to utilize him and the factor that they would like them to do. If you go back to Keir Thomas, I thought they did a good job evaluating him, but he also had stats that he brought with him, where if you look back previously, Florida State brought in guys that had stats that could help you. You look back, Keon Coleman, Michigan State, had some production there. Keir Thomas had production there. Guys that, already had, some stats. You tried to do it with Malik Benson, a full-on project player as a senior. And you thought that he'd come in and plug in and be your wide receiver one, but that is just not the case. And didn't have really much to back up there from JUCO and Alabama. Like, you relied on some projects in this transfer class, and this is what you got. And you expected for those guys to be immediate impact guy. TJ Ferguson too, if I go to the offensive line, wasn't phenomenal at Alabama and wasn't great. The run game blocking, etc. Like, not great. But then you also got put in that position because you couldn't develop offensive line. And just, I think some better evaluation in the transfer portal, and that, it's only happened really for Florida State one year where this has been brutally bad, but, kind of got to get back to those old ways. And I think matching that with also too, like we've been discussing, Mike Norvell realizing he can't do it all. And I like the CEO role for him more than anything. I just don't know if he's going to go that route after what we've seen this season and some decisions that he's made.
Can I rebuttal on the transfer portal evaluations to play devil's advocate here? I don't think the evaluation was the biggest miscalculation. I think they just couldn't close on the guys they wanted. Think about Kyle Kennard. They had him on campus for a visit. He's tearing it up at South Carolina. They had Carter Smith from Indiana, offensive tackle, come down for a visit. Couldn't close that. Now he's literally the best tackle in college football by pretty much every metric. Nick Scorton, they had a visit set up. Instead, he flees that, goes to Texas A&M. I get that was a little bit of a homecoming, but they at least had visits lined up for a lot of these guys that are top players in college football and couldn't close. I think that's more leaning towards that direction than it is anything else, and just misevaluating some of these guys. I think the evaluations are still there, and they kind of just had to go to their second, third, fourth options, and we're seeing what that's led to this year.
Yeah, they definitely
in the recruiting too. Wise, you can say the same thing about some big misses that they thought they were getting there, and that's been a theme the last few years for FSU as well in their high school ranks.
They definitely miscalculated the transfer market, and they did have some success bringing in guys who hadn't put up a ton of production at previous programs. You look at Johnny Wilson. You look at Trey Benson, you look at a Jarian Jones, those guys hadn't done very much before they transferred to FSU, and they developed in Tallahassee and became very good football players. So, I think there was some of that thought process going into, a bunch of the guys that they brought in the portal this offseason. Obviously, you brought up most of those names, Logan, and, you can put Earl Little Jr. in that mix as well. And some of those other guys who were blue chip recruits out of high school, hadn't done a lot at where they signed to out of college, and then Florida State was hoping, they would bounce back whenever they got more of an opportunity, and it just hasn't happened the way that Florida State anticipated. And from top to bottom, basically, pretty much all of those transfers have failed for FSU at this moment compared to what they were expecting whenever they came in.